Hello, my loves. How are you? So it does sort of blow me away how everything intersects and comes together without even trying. The universe and our higher selves really orchestrate whatever is needing to occur. So on my other channel, we've been talking about moving from codependent to interdependent dynamics. And I'm seeing a very deep, similar process occurring at this time between the feminine and masculine collectives in a very deep way. We've been talking about the new phase that we're embodying into and sort of how you have to like take down the old once the new is in place. And so a lot of what we have been experiencing in the foundation over the last few weeks, maybe even to the past few months, is where we have been being extracted out of the residual codependent foundations. And as individuals, being moved to our own foundations so that we can embody into our own safety and security and stability, our own internal union energies, really having the opportunity to drop in and embody in ways, in unprecedented ways that we've never had the opportunity to do before. And part of what is happening within this collective move is it's actually revealing and exposing to both the feminine collectives and the masculine collectives where there was still an energy of codependency and reliance on the other to hold a certain space. And this is all just part of the old dynamic where and you will probably relate to both of these dynamics within yourself, regardless of how you identify. But in the old patterns, our feminine energy wanted to be held and supported, was really within the energies of creation and flow and processing. You can hear my voice is upgrading as we speak. The masculine energy was in the provider position, and the feminine was processing the emotions for the dynamics. That is how the old relationship template on earth has been sort of set up, right? But we're transforming and evolving out of those dynamics. And many of you have already been in the process of evolving out of those. But what's happening is now we're really down to the roots. So any places or spaces those dynamics were still occurring, even if you didn't realize you were participating in it in that way, it's being revealed and it's being resolved and dissolved out because we are ready to embody more deeply and clearly into the new template, into the new dynamics, into those interdependent interactions. Now, I'm going to be uploading and posting both a video and a short connected to that self-love, personal responsibility, healthy boundaries triangle that my higher self downloaded to me that replaces the victim, perpetrator, savior, codependent dynamic that we have experienced so rampantly in the old overlay. Over these years, I've been working on solutions within myself and how can we actually not just understand these codependent things in a spiritual, intellectual manner, but how can we actually practically embody them and work with them in our day-to-day lives and in our current relationship dynamics. And this is happening. And as the old template is breaking up, each person is sort of finding where it's their opportunity to shore up their boundaries, to deepen into their self love, to take personal responsibility for their own happiness, for their own stability, for their own lives, right? And this is important. This is not to say that we're not going to have relationships or that we don't have relationships. It's just about the fact that if we're really embodying into this new healthy foundation in unity consciousness, those old dynamics have to resolve out. Okay. And you can, of course, embody into the new secure dynamics during that process if it's aligned. But you also may find that separation or time apart, breaks, even relationships might resolve completely out of your life. They may transform, they may come back. There's a lot of changes happening right now. I've been seeing a lot of and hearing about a lot of dynamics where even newer situations and newer solutions are being dissolved out. And this makes sense, right? We're in this constant growth process, right? It's just like a little kid. You don't try to, if they're having a growth spurt, you don't force them into the old clothes and shoes that don't fit anymore. You go buy them some new ones, right? And we are at that level of a growth spurt in our evolutionary ascension process. We are outgrowing dynamics and situations very quickly. It and then it's all how we handle it from there. So for me, I've been going through this for a lot of years, so I can usually anticipate when that growth spurt is happening and just hold space to allow it to unravel and resolve and upgrade instead of taking it personally or thinking that something's wrong. It's sort of just like, okay, we're ready to upgrade, we're ready to up level, so let's let it go. Let's see what needs to be cleaned up that was underneath it, and how can we embody and clean up and expand into our next levels. This is bringing me to a very important part of this process that's coming up where you may almost feel like you're finding this energy that feels like a conundrum. But part of what is happening is, say you were guided to go into a situation. Maybe you felt 50-50 about it, maybe somewhat uncomfortable, maybe you were okay with it, but you did receive the guidance to move forward. You move through the process. There's good parts, comfortable parts, uncomfortable parts, and you sort of come out the other side and it reveals some vulnerabilities or some triggers or some weak spots. Now, you might think that something was wrong or that you didn't listen to your intuition, but the truth is most likely both parts were true. It was something that needed to be done so that you could find those vulnerable spots so that you can shore them up, clean them up, unravel them, dissolve them, heal and seal the wounds or the vulnerabilities, not to go in defensive or protective mechanisms, but to actually just resolve the old information and the old triggers, take personal responsibility for that, drop in your new healthy energetic boundaries and standards, do the most self-loving thing that you can do, drop into compassion for yourself and the other, and then really embody into the fact that it did need to happen. Things need to occur and unfold the way that they do so that you can embody into your next levels. And so having an intuition or guidance to follow a certain stream, but then when it doesn't turn out the way that you thought it was supposed to turn out, it doesn't mean you did the wrong thing. It means that you needed information that was within that experience. And all of us can relate back to the time where we were in our soul merge and had the love bubble phase, right? We, at a soul level, needed to do that so we could feel into our potential. And then you go into that point where it sort of falls apart. You realize where you can't hold it, but it's the opportunity for you to shore up all of the weak spots, right? Where you were vulnerable, where you didn't have the skills, or the information to fill in those places and spaces. This is zero judgment around any of it because this is what we are here to learn, right? So some of you or many of you may be finding that you're going through another iteration of something similar to what happened back then. It may be with your counterpart, it might be with family or your job or business partnerships or friends or neighbors or whoever. The bottom line, it doesn't mean that you've done something wrong. It means as a collective, we are ready to level up and embody more deeply into interdependent energies. And part of that requires us to drop into our interdependence, taking personal responsibility for ourselves, for our own foundations, so that we can come back to the table in these healthy, clean, interdependent, cure, secure connections, right? And so this process takes time and we go through iterations of it because that's how we embody. It's how we build the muscle. It's how we learn. We can understand things intellectually and spiritually, but actually embodying those and being able to enact it in your day-to-day life in any given moment takes mastery, my loves. It takes the capacity and the willingness to go into the uncomfortable places and spaces, to face those parts of yourself, to look into the shadows so that you can transform them. And as you do that, what's going to happen? You may end up playing a role in someone else's dynamic where they're needing to clean up some shadows. And you're going to know the difference because you're willing to self reflect. You're willing to take self responsibility and set healthy boundaries. And you're going to know if it's yours to process or not. You process your part, you give them back their own to process, right? This is about you dissolving that self doubt, moving into the self trust each time you embody into one of these processes. Each time we have these opportunities being presented to us. And there's multiple retrogrades going on right now. So it makes sense that some of the old patterns and dynamics are being presented. And you might have chosen to participate in those for a time so that you could discover where you are needing to shore yourself up, deepen into your standards, deepen into your self care and your self love, deepen into your embodiment. Recognize how much you have actually evolved. Notice the places and spaces where you weren't needing to go into defensive or protective mechanisms. Notice the frequencies of how you may just know what boundaries to drop in without having an emotional reaction. You are just honoring and following your higher guidance and still coming from a tempered position, a tempered energy. It's all really about how we enact the energies. And sometimes you might come from a trigger, but you might notice that next time you're not triggered, that it's actually quite simple to recognize the dynamic, to drop in your boundaries, and to let it go. Right. And I do feel that many of you are experiencing some of that dance right now. And so I wanted to acknowledge it because it does feel very much that the feminines are being moved into their own lane, the masculines are being moved into their own lane, and it's everybody's personal responsibility to work within their own dynamics and their own situations and their own experiences. And then, if it aligns down the road, coming back to the table to reassess where the interdependent dynamics are ready to drop in, right? But collectively, on a larger scale, it does feel that we've all been respectively moved into our own lanes or are in that process. So if that resonates, just keep working with it. It's bringing to mind, I do have that recorded guided meditative session, Your Own Pillar of Light. If any of you want to work with that dynamic deeper or feel some support around that, it's over on my website and it's on my Patreon. I'll put all of my information in the pinned comments, but most of all, even if you've worked with these energies deeply, you may find that you are up leveling in a bigger, broader container. Okay. This feels to be a very big, important part of our next phase of our up leveling and a reflection of how much we have grown and how much we're ready for the next phase. Remember, when you make big moves, right? When you repot a plant, it takes time for the new roots to embody, right? To reestablish. And so be gentle with yourself. You are going through a massive upgrade. You are in the next phase. Now you have to let yourself spread out, sprawl out, and ground and root into the next larger container. All right, my loves, you got this. You're doing beautiful. I'm excited to see what unfolds. If you would like to watch that video around that triangle of self-love, personal responsibility, and healthy boundaries, I'll be sharing that on my Danielle Wilt channel, and you can go over there and check that out. It's all sort of interweaving, and I'll see you soon. Hope this was helpful, and you have a beautiful rest of your day. Take care. Much love. Bye.